Hello, Earthlings. Welcome to the show. How you doing today? Josh Poed with you. This is First Contact Radio. So a new week is upon us, and I was given some thought of some things I'd like to do to kind of change things up a little bit. And one of the things I'm going to start off with is the beginning of the show. Now, for the longest while, I've been starting off each show with the date on the Dream Spell calendar. And I thought that, and I'd also give the Gregorian calendar correlation to all of that. I thought I would change things up a little bit and step away from the calendars altogether. The Dream Spell, the Gregorian, any of the type of calendars there. Because I want us to start exploring time not from the calendar perspective, but when we step into time, what we understand of it intuitively. Because time is changing. That is what all of these Mayan calendars, the dream spells, that's what they've all come to show us. That time is changing and we're stepping into a new order of understanding. In order to do so, it seems that we need to be able to step away from what ways we were looking at and step into something a little bit different, kind of take a new perspective on things. That is what this whole time period that we're going through, this time shift. So in that regard, let's start looking in that way. So I'm going to try something and just go without these dates at the beginning, just to kind of see where we go if we leave it a little bit more open-ended in that regard. So that being said, I've got a good show for us today. I'm going to give an update. I was at the Crystal Skull Conference in Los Angeles this last weekend. Learned a lot of things, saw some really interesting things. I got to meet Hunbatz Men. Had a chat with him, and I'm going to play something of that momentarily. And all in all, it was a good time. A lot of great stuff. So I'm going to get to that. But before we do, let's start off here with our Dirk Bradshaw. Dirk Bradshaw has a story for us about chemtrails. Dirk, over to you.
Flying high above the planet Earth, this is the Cosmic News with Dirk Bradshaw. I am Dirk Bradshaw. Experts agree that jet contrails are harmless, yet thousands of people think the vapors are evidence for anything, from massive drug dosing to weather wars. But why? Learn more about these theories surrounding chemtrails. That's what we have for you, boys and girls, on the Cosmic News. Stay tuned. You're really going to want to know this.
If you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
Here are the facts. Look at the sky over any modern city. Chances are you'll see line-shaped clouds mixed with the normal cloud cover. These are called contrails. When jets fly through the air, they leave trails of water vapor in their wake. This vapor dissipates a few minutes after the jet passes. The government claims these clouds are a harmless result of engine exhaust. I'm no meteorologist. When I hear about the weather, I take the experts at their word. However, some sources reject this explanation. These researchers believe there's another type of man-made cloud, a chemtrail. While contrails are an effect of water and air temperature, chemtrails are allegedly different. What if those lines aren't just water? What could they be? Why are they here? Many chemtrail theorists, or chemies, think the trails are a type of weather manipulation. We know weather-changing technology exists. By using dry ice or silver iodide, scientists can increase rainfall. It's imperfect, but it's real. Chemtrails could be another more precise technique. This could explain why chemtrails don't dissipate. They could be made to attract moisture. But not all chemtrails attract cloud cover. Some just linger like strokes of paint across the sky. Because not all chemtrails attract moisture, many chemies think those strange striped-shaped clouds have a different purpose. Why control the weather if you can control the people? Here's where it gets crazy. Some researchers believe chemtrails are a kind of mind control. According to this theory, the chemicals spread through chemtrails wear down the immune system and force the victim's mind to function at a lower level. With a less alert population, no one will notice the changes in local, national, and global governments. They allege that higher amounts of bacteria, barium, and aluminum are found near chemtrails. But this theory has obstacles. It's tough to control the dosage. Spraying chemicals only affects people who happen to be outdoors. What happens to the rest? There's also no way to aim. It doesn't sound effective. But some believe chemtrails aren't made for mind control or weather manipulation. Instead, they're weapons. Sure, this sounds ridiculous. We're comparing clouds to tanks and missiles. But the US does conduct atmospheric research and has extensive experimental facilities. Consider HAARP in Alaska. HAARP conducts experiments in Earth's ionosphere, 35 miles from the planet's surface. We already have the ability to manipulate the weather. Some theorists think our government can also create earthquakes and manipulate electromagnetic fields. Chemtrails might only be side effects of these secret weapons. The electromagnetic waves used by these weapon systems might distort and discolor clouds. When you see a chemtrail or odd clouds, you might be seeing the effects of an invisible global weapon. Could this be possible? The next time you find yourself outdoors on a sunny day, look at the clouds. Do they seem normal? Are these trails in the sky the normal streaks of jets and the normal movement of clouds and wind? Or is there something else up there? Something they don't want you to know.
Next up on the Cosmic News Network, R.A. Grimes, Heart of Darkness. Best-selling author, R.A. Grimes, unravels life's mysteries as we travel through the heart of darkness.
Our brains are different from those of all humans before us. Our brain is modified on a substantial scale, physically and functionally, each time we learn a new skill or develop a new ability. Massive changes are associated with our modern cultural specializations. The internet is just one of those things that contemporary humans can spend millions of practice events at, that the average human 1,000 years ago had absolutely no exposure to. Our brains are massively remodeled by this exposure, but so, too, by reading, by television, by video games, by modern electronics, by contemporary music, by contemporary tools. In each stage of cultural development, the average human had to learn complex new skills and abilities that all involve massive brain change. Our brains are vastly different, in fine detail, from the brains of our ancestors. We have this wonderful ability to specialize, so powerful that each one of us can actually learn an incredibly elaborate set of ancestrally developed skills and abilities in our lifetimes, in a sense generating a recreation of this history of cultural evolution via brain plasticity, in a highly abstracted form, in every one of us. With the internet and contemporary technology evolving at a lightning pace over the past 40 years, the demands of uploading from our cultural history are incredible, but we are seeing more and more people falling off the boat.
Oh, man, I can't believe it's over. Where does the time go? Well, I see the fat lady's off the stage. She's looking right at me. It's time for me to go put her to bed. I hate goodbyes. So instead I'm going to say, until we meet again, I'm Dirk Bradshaw for the Cosmic News. Wake up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. All right, we had a couple of sightings over the course of this last several days you're going to want to know about. First one comes to us from New York. All right, this one here. Let's take a look at this. You see right in the middle of the screen here, we got one right in the middle there. Just watch that one. It makes its ascent upward. And as it does make it ascend upward, this thing here, this appears to just be a lens flare, so don't get caught up with that one. There's the one that's still right up here. Alright, and as we move across, we can see it again, zipping forward here. Alright, there it is right here. Alright, it seems to get a little brighter and okay. And you got something else over here they're seeing. Actually, there looks like there's one, two, there's a couple of them going on there, moving around. So very fascinating. That's what's took place in New York not too long ago. Now our next sighting takes us to Tijuana, Mexico. And this took place last Wednesday. This was another daytime video of a UFO. This one was recorded in Tijuana, Mexico, Wednesday the 9th. Alright, let's check this one out here. Okay, where are we at here? Where are we at? Okay. Let me see, I'm going to have to fast forward this one here. It's pretty faint, you really can't see it at the moment. I'm trying to get to the point where it's a little better. There you go, you can start to see it now. There's two of them right in the middle of the screen. Now there's like a third one that just comes in, 4 or 5. You see them all in this area here? There's a whole grouping of them. Okay. And as you... Alright, they're really faint, hard to see. But this video is online on our YouTube page. You can find the link going to firstcontactradio.com, right hand side, UFO News. Just follow the link. It'll take you there to our stories for today. Now, this next one here comes to us from Sweden. And it goes on to say in this article that according to eyewitness testimonial in the video that we're going to show you here, while you were busy doing advanced meditation, polishing crystals, writing about ascension syndrome, watching TV, partying, being brainwashed, or some other distractions. This is the real deal, people. The UFO just landed in the forest. There is a being standing next to it. I believe it is doing some kind of repairs on the craft. This is just amazing, really. There is no structures of this craft, light seen. There is no real street lamps, no nothing. Only treetops, grass, rocks. This is also the top of the very same mountain the UFOs have seen flying videos frequently. I've been telling you this all along. They've got a base over here. I tried heading to the location earlier today, and since it was all pitch black, I could not go to the same location where the UFO and the being is seen on the video, but the next time I will head there and meet the being in person. I know they want to meet me. Them. Forgot to mention also there is no road, so whatever is up in the mountain, the only way to get there is by foot or by air. It is more obvious than ever. Please wait for the enhanced zoom version. It's going to blow you away. On the enhanced version, you can truly see that an alien being is standing right to the side of the craft for a few minutes. Do not miss. Alright, let's take a look at this here. Alright, we're going to have to... this comes to us from Cosmic Star Traveler. have to really wait for the zoom in. Okay, this is where he says he sees something, the light here. Okay. Okay, saying in this area here there's the ship that landed, and that there's a being doing some repairs next to the ship. I'm not necessarily seeing the being at this moment. I think we need to even be more close up. Alright, let me keep going a bit closer here. Okay, says there seems to be an egg-shaped object behind the light. Could this be the craft? Okay, you can see we're trying to get in closer on this image here. Just pulling in, I think maybe okay, and maybe this a little closer here. Okay, definitely, yeah, you can see there's something back here. You can't quite make it out. Let me okay, so that object's there. You can see it's a golden looking object there in the mountains, but not quite certain what it is. I'd suggest get this video, watch it. It's 8 minutes in length. That way you can kind of see, do some investigation, see if you can pull it up in a good close-up view for yourself. Now, and I'm sure that he's probably going to get something more close-up. He was saying in the description I read. All right, now here's an interesting one. This is about Obama visiting Mars. You know, it comes to us from UFO-blogger.com. We have the story here about the president's response to the ET disclosure, which was basically the same as the White House always does. It doesn't exist. Why do they say that? Well, they don't want to make themselves look stupid because they've been denying it for so long. They might as well keep up the charade a bit longer. But down here it says Obama's participation in the secret Mars training program and trips to Mars. How the cover-up around Barack Obama's trips to Mars is maintained clandestinely by diversions such as NASA's Mars Science Laboratory. NASA Project Pegasus participant and Washington State Attorney Andrew D. Basiago and former U.S. chrononaut William Brett Stillings are two co-participants with U.S. President Barack Obama in 1980's secret Mars training and teleportation trips to the U.S. facilities on Mars. Now this article, strange as it seems, goes on to say that Barack Obama, otherwise known as Barry Soetoro, which is, if you don't know, that is his name, Regina Dugan, Major Ed Dames, and Andrew Basiago, William Brett Stillings in secret 1980 Mars training. Both Mr. Basiago and Mr. Stillings have come forward to reveal that they participated in a secret Mars training in the summer of 1980 with a number of teenagers, including Barack Obama, then known as Barry Soetoro, and Regina Dugan, now director of DARPA and Pentagon's Advanced Research Agency, Projects Agency, and was taught by Major Ed Dames of the U.S. Army. Their parents accompanied all the teenagers. U.S. President Barack Obama was, according to Mr. Basiago and Mr. Stillings, accompanied by his mother, Stanley Ann Durham. The 1980 Secret Mars training was held to orient individuals who would be visiting U.S. secret base on Mars via CIA teleportation facility adjacent to LAX International Airport, and was held at the College of Sciences in Weed, California. Andrew D. Basiago is a childhood participant in DARPA's program Project Pegasus from 1968 to 72 that developed teleportation and time travel, and is a former U.S. chrononaut to Mars. Mr. Basiago participated in a Mars training course in the summer of 1980, and during the time period 1981 to 1983 teleported to Mars via jump room in El Segundo, California. William Brett Stillings is a former U.S. chrononaut to Mars. He participated in a Mars training course in the summer of 1980 and during the time period 1981 to 83. And there's a bit more to this article. I know it sounds pretty way out there, but this is the story. And it goes on. There's furthermore to the article for you to check out here about the DARPA program, what it is called Project Pegasus, and how people were teleported from Earth to Mars during a period of time as part of this government project. So, quite fascinating indeed. You know, here we are told that NASA's just trying to make its way to the moon, and then we can't get back to the moon, and now the moon bases that we supposedly went to are now part of a no-fly zone. Well, who's going to be flying up there if it isn't us? So there's a lot of mystery to the story, and now behind all of that, we have the story that we were teleporting to the Mars in the 80s. So if that was the case, where else are they going? And if they've teleported to Mars, then they've certainly teleported to the moon, but not in the way that the NASA program has been about. So there's definitely more than meets the eye with these particular projects that are taking place. Definitely more than meets the eye. And we need to really keep our eyes open to see what is going to come of all of this. You know, extraterrestrial involvement with planet Earth is going to happen on a big scale in the very near future. People of the planet Earth, you're being prepared so that you can understand this a bit better. And so you're not going to freak out when it happens. Because initially the thought might be that there is an invasion taking place. But there's not an invasion that's about to take place. If you were going to be invaded, it would have been a long time ago. There are beings around who definitely want to assist you in the process of growth. But there are beings that want to keep you from growing. And those beings, unfortunately, are on this planet, part of your own government structures. They are the ones who are spreading the lies and the rumors and keeping you in the dark about what's really going on out there in the universe. So, continue to find stories like you'll find here and other places across the web where you can really dig in. You got to find the truth between the lies and the rumors. But if you dig in, you'll find that there's stuff out there much more than meets the eye, and you'll be able to start to put the pieces together to understand there's a much bigger picture at hand. That's our UFO news for today. I'll be back in a minute.
Strap on your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're about to go on a journey. It's First Contact Radio with Joshua Poet. Strap on.
All right, Dirk, I'm back. Thank you very much. All right, let's see. What are we going to start off with here? Space weather. Space weather. Okay. Space weather for today. Now, it's important that we keep an eye on our space weather because through these changes we are going through in these times, we are connecting more with the cosmos than we have in the past. Therefore, it's important for us to pay attention to what is going on in the cosmos around us. So here we have a situation today. Our solar wind is blowing at the speed of 358.2 kilometers per second. So we can see that that's pretty much about average what we see on a daily basis, somewhere within the 300 to 400 range. And the other thing that we want to look at that's important, we check every day, is our planetary K-index. The planetary K-index goes from 0 to 9. 9, of course, is the extreme end, very high, and 0 is very quiet, as you can see right next to it. The 24-hour max is expected to be no more than a 1, so things are quite low. Not a lot of activity taking place. And down here, we can go further. We see what our forecast is going to be, that not very much chance that we're going to have any flares. M-class, certainly very, very low chance of an X-class flare. And our storms are very low as well, 3%, 1%. So these are as low as they have been in quite some time. Now, we can see here from the stories that is talking about the CMEs that have been released most recently from the Sun. We have one that's directed towards Mars or Venus. It says a coronal mass ejection that swept past Mercury on November 13th will likely hit Venus later today. Because Venus has no global magnetic field to protect it, the impact could erode material directly from the top of the planet's atmosphere. It's okay. Venus has atmosphere to spare. Analysts at the Goddard Space Weather Lab calculated the path of the CME, which left the Sun on November 12th. Now here's something that is important, though. This one goes on that as far as solar activity goes, in terms of solar flares, the Sun is quite quiet today, as you could see from what I just showed you of the KP and the other things. But nevertheless, some impressive activity is underway on the Sun. For one thing, an enormous wall of plasma is towering over the Sun's southeastern horizon. Stephen Ramsden of Atlanta, Georgia, took the picture on November 11th. Solar forums all over the world are buzzing with the Sun astronomers proclaiming this to be the biggest prominence that many of them have ever witnessed. Remarkably, though, this is not the biggest thing. A dark filament of magnetism is winding halfway around the entire Sun. NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory took this picture during the early hours of November 14th. You see this right here. That's big filament of magnetic energy. That's what these are. They're pools of magnetic energy that boil to the surface of the Sun. And from these, this is where these flares come from. If they bubble up and they flare out. And when they get to be really big, if it's an M-class flare, it's like a medium. Just think of M for medium. But the X-class flare, well, that's where they get really intense. And that's the ones that we are concerned about, especially if they are headed towards Earth. From end to end, the twisted fiber of magnetism stretches more than 1,000,000 kilometers, or about 3 times the distance between Earth and the Moon. If the filament becomes unstable, as solar filaments are prone to do, it could collapse and hit the stellar surface below, triggering a Hyder flare. No one can say if the eruption of such a sprawling structure would be Earth-directed. And as we go down here, let's just look at our near-Earth objects. You could see that there aren't any. Well, there is one passing by tomorrow. It's 109 kilometers, and it's quite far away, 9.9 lunar distances. So if the one that went by the other day, which was 400 meters, passing at less than a single lunar distance, this one's not going to be any problem at all. It's way out there. And you could see that going through the rest of the year, there isn't anything significant that is coming through. Objects pass through all the time, but they're harmless as usually are. All right, so there you go. That's our weather for today, our space weather. Now, I want to turn our attention to the subject of 9/11. 9/11 is a very important event that we need to remember for many reasons. One of the reasons is because so many people died on that day. The second reason that we want to continue to look at 9/11 is because we still, as far as a public, have not been told the truth about what really happened. There's been a lot of independent research that has taken place, and independent research has certainly found evidence that suggests that the official story is absolutely inaccurate and could not happen. We've played parts over and over. Last week I played you a clip of the psychologist talking about this, why there is this issue, why we aren't addressing it. And the bottom line, as they say in there, is very important, that it is disrespectful to all of those who died during that event to not really look into their deaths, to not really investigate it, because it was a crime that took place in those days, and people were murdered. And they were murdered in a way that is still unknown to many Americans, because the mainstream media is still towing the party line and lying to you. But all it takes is just a little bit of investigation, and with that little bit of investigation, you can understand that the truth is not been told to us by the government at all. As a matter of fact, the government has told one big lie and has changed their lies over and over every time they get caught in part of the lie. Now, architects and engineers are an organization. AE911truth.org is an organization that is out there bringing this to light. And as you will see right here, I'm at their website. I want you to be familiar with this one. You could see that there are 1,637 architects and engineers who support a new investigation. Now, why is this important? Well, every day, people on this planet and in America are traveling and going into buildings, high-rise buildings that are made by architects and engineers. These architects and engineers are very concerned that the buildings you go in are not going to fall down on top of you when you're inside of these buildings. So when they look at the event of 9/11 and they look at the 3 buildings that fell in New York, they're very concerned. They want to make sure this doesn't happen again. So they are looking to understand, why did those buildings fall, and how do they, as architects and engineers, make sure the design of the buildings do not ever have those things happen to them again. And during the course of their research and their investigations using scientific principles, they have come to determine that the way the buildings fell were not the way that the official report says. During their investigations, they have also found that there has been much cover-up and much lying and misinformation putting out by government sources and those associated with the government agencies that have been connected with putting out the official story. So it concerns them because they, again, want to make sure that you are safe and sound when you climb into a building and it's not going to fall on top of you. So through this website, Richard Gage, AIA, and many others have come to understand that there is so much more to this picture. For example, many people don't know about Building 7. Building 7 was a 47-story skyscraper that also fell on 9/11. There was not just the 2 World Trade Centers, but there was a third building, Building 7. Now, the strange thing about Building 7 is it just went straight down. Went straight down, looked like a controlled demolition. If you look at the image of the building collapsing and you compare that to put it side by side with another building that is being demolished by controlled demolition, you will see that they are exactly the same. The building went down that day, and strangely enough, 2 news agencies reported the building having had collapsed before it even collapsed. So either the news agencies, the media, such as the BBC, is psychic, or they had some prior knowledge, because they do get these reports handed to them, they read them, and during the course of their readings they came on a little bit sooner than they needed to. As a matter of fact, when Jane Stanley was doing her report, behind her was the World Trade Center building still standing. And then you have all the reports of those who claim that or not just claimed, but on recordings that you could hear of the policemen and firemen telling people to back up because the building was going to explode. Many, many things about it. So if you go to Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, you're going to find so much information here that it's going to boggle your mind if you don't know about it. And just browse through what's here. You've got, a link here that will take you to evidence, and you've got videos after videos of all kind of evidence put together. Things that shows that they have done, shows that others have done. I mean, just on and on. Here you've got firefighters for truth. Firefighters out in New York that were there in the buildings as explosions were going off and the buildings were being demolished. Tons of information here. There's absolutely no reason that anybody in this day and age should not be able to go to the internet, go to this site, and pull this information up. No reason at all. The only reason that somebody would not go investigate this is because they were afraid of what they might find, which is all about psychology. The psychology of being afraid that something that you really trust in, like your government, is not really a trustworthy source. Well, you got to get over that, because they aren't. They haven't been for a long time. And the only way to fix the problem is to have the conversation and be brave enough to deal with it, because until you do, the lies are going to continue. And based on the 9/11 story that we've heard, the Patriot Act was put into place. And then Obama came and he re-signed it, which he wasn't going to do. There's been all sorts of war on terror propaganda that's been put on. There's been one problem after another that has been caused by this. All the deaths because of the war. So a lie that killed many people on that day has gone and killed many, many more over the course of the years. It has taken away your freedoms, and it's continued to be propagated by the mainstream media, who should know better. The mainstream has absolutely failed you and all the viewers because they're not being honest with you about what really happened. You know, Fox News says they're fair and balanced, but they're anything but fair and balanced. In the meantime, while Fox News is out there telling their lies and their stories, you've got Rupert Murdoch and his son who are over in the UK being grilled by Parliament for the lies and corruption practices they have overseas. Yet you don't hear about that here in America because they certainly wouldn't report on themselves that they were in trouble over there. So people who aren't paying attention, they have no idea that they're in trouble overseas, because most people are just have their head in the sand with regards to this subject, and when they're watching the mainstream, they're caught up in some sort of crazy trance. I don't understand it. It's very bizarre, but it's happening, and it's only going to be fixed when people stand up and do something about it. Now, having said all that, I'm going to play for you this clip. This is a 10-minute piece, and this is from Architects AE 911 Truth, and it's 10 minutes of their program Blueprint for Truth, which is an excellent, excellent documentary about what went on that day. So I'm going to play this for you, and hopefully this is going to inspire you to go watch the entire piece. Here we go.
So much. My name is Richard Gage, AIA. I've been a practicing architect for 20 years, and I'm a member of the American Institute of Architects. Let's take a look at World Trade Center 7 now. It was 47 stories tall, what would have been the tallest building in 33 of our states. It was not hit by an airplane. Let's take a look at the evidence of World Trade Center 7 and see how it stacks up against the typical features of a controlled demolition, starting with, is there a sudden onset of destruction? Let's listen to this emergency word.
We were watching the building actually because it was on fire. The bottom floors of the building were on fire, and we heard this sound that sounded like a clap of thunder. Turned around, we were shocked to see that the building was, it looked like there was a shock wave ripping through the building, and the windows all busted out, and it was horrifying. And then, about a second later, the bottom floor caves out, and the building followed after that, and we saw the building crash down all the way to the ground.
Do we have a straight-down symmetrical collapse into the building's footprint? Let's listen to Dan Rather narrate this collapse for us as we take our first look at the collapse of Building 7.
Now we go to videotape the collapse of this building.
It's amazing.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the third time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
Let's take a look in this side-by-side comparison with a known controlled demolition on the right. Did the building fall into its own footprint? Pretty much so. Do we have demolition waves? And how do these remove the column support? Well, here's a floor plan of Building 7. Now, to bring a building smoothly, symmetrically into its own footprint without falling over, what we have to do is remove the core columns, because what we want to do is bring the outside of the building in on itself. Now, this involves a high degree of precision that fire is not capable of. Do we have a free fall speed of collapse through the path of greatest resistance? You can see, second by second, the building gaining downward momentum. You can plot the drop distance on a graph of time, and it fits the free fall curve almost perfectly. What does this mean? that the columns had to have been removed, and removed virtually simultaneously on each floor, synchronistically timed, so the building had no resistance, virtually, on the way down. Do we have a total dismemberment of the steel structure? We had a 47-story skyscraper compressed to 4 stories. Do we have sounds of explosions, though? How about Kevin McPadden?
This was a boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something. That, to me, I knew that was an explosion. There was no doubt in my mind.
Do we have enormous clouds of pyroclastic smoke from the pulverized concrete? Watch the concrete entrained in the air, racing down every street in each direction at 35 miles an hour. Do we have pools of molten iron? Here is Building 7 at A and B, and here is the North Tower and the South Tower. These hot spots are 1,340 to 1,370 degrees. These are the temperatures of the hottest office fires. There was no fire on the surface of Ground Zero after the collapses. What are we measuring here? We're measuring the molten metal that was seen by these first responders. Let's listen to John Gross, lead engineer of NIST, tell us about the molten metal from his perspective.
First of all, let's go back to your basic premise that there was a pool of molten steel. I know of absolutely nobody, no eyewitness who said so, nobody who's produced it.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails. Like you're in a foundry. Like lava.
No eyewitness who said so.
There are actually melted beams where it was molten steel that was being dug out.
No eyewitness who said so.
Underground, it was still so hot that molten metal dripped down the sides of a wall.
Nobody who's produced it.
What is the problem here? Somebody's lying. I'm going to leave it up to you to make your own conclusions. How about chemical evidence, though? What produced all this molten metal? And what is thermite anyway?
Thermite. An incendiary used by the military, thermite is a compound of iron oxide and aluminum, which when ignited sustains an extreme heat reaction, creating molten iron. In just 2 seconds, thermite can reach temperatures over 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit, quite enough to liquefy steel.
Dr. Stephen Jones performed chemical analysis on the previously molten metal. Dr. Jones received no less than 4 separate samples of World Trade Center dust, some of it from Jeanette McKinley's apartment across the street, where the windows blew in and filled her apartment with dust. Another sample was found like 10 minutes later on the Brooklyn Bridge. Well, he takes this and he puts a magnet over it, and he finds that there are small particles that come up to the magnet. Some of them are angular, some of them are round. They look like this. If you had thousands of cutter charges going off in the columns and beams throughout the building, and they were under this incredible pressure, what you'd see is something like this. Tens of thousands or millions of tiny droplets. What's the shape of those droplets? When a liquid is dispersed like this, its surface tension forms itself into almost a perfect sphere. Would there possibly be any unignited thermite pieces in the World Trade Center dust? Indeed, he finds it. It also comes up to the magnet from his dust samples. Many chips. This one, a 1/16 of an inch long, red on one side, gray on the other. The red side is composed of tiny iron oxide particles and aluminum. The Lawrence Livermore Lab came out with papers about this stuff. The particles being so small allow for almost instantaneous ignition between the two chemicals, the aluminum and the iron oxide, producing very explosive results. He continues his study and finds additional chips that are partially ignited, with spheres embedded in them. With Dr. Jones and his small team of scientists, through EDS, XRF, and WDS, identifies the components of these spheres and chips, predominantly iron, along with aluminum, oxygen, silicon, 1,3-diphenylpropane, The results, coupled with the visual evidence, he says, at the scene, such as the flowing hot liquid metal, providing compelling evidence that thermite reaction compounds were deliberately placed in both World Trade Center towers and Building 7. These results are documented in a peer-reviewed journal. Let's listen to what FEMA did conclude, because it is interesting. Evidence of a severe high-temperature corrosion attack on the steel, including rapid oxidation, sulfidation, and subsequent intergranular melting. Very interesting. Remember, office fires don't melt steel. What melted this steel? Capable of turning a solid steel girder into Swiss cheese, like this former wide flange column from the structural steel in Building 7. Now, they document this very carefully in their Appendix C. I believe we've shown that Building 7 matches all of the features of controlled demolition in the classic sense. Thank you so very much.
All right, AE911 Truth is where you can go to find out more information. And again, these architects and engineers want to make sure that when further buildings are created, that they're not going to fall down. So they're very interested in knowing if fire created these problems, how they could eliminate that in the future. Fire didn't create these problems. People have been lied to. And the only way we're going to get to the truth is that we have to stand up and continue to speak the truth to others. Direct them to the truth. Because war criminals have gotten away. Bush is out there running around, and yet all these Americans have been killed by those in his administration that caused this problem. Dick Cheney is out there free as a war criminal. And as long as these people are free, it is a slap in the face to all of those who died and all of those who are grieving for family members who died, because justice has not been served. And it's only going to be served when people step up to the truth. That's what has to happen. Now, across America and across the world, people are stepping up in different ways, and they're stepping up in these Occupy movements. This here is some raw footage of Occupy Portland. I want you to check this out here. Now, as you see here, you know, as you can see here, look at these. Look at how these police are all being backed up here by all the people. See, that's a good sign. You know, the police, man, they're just putting themselves so much on the wrong side of the fence here, because people are stepping up. They're stepping up to their corruptions, their lies, because in the end, the police are going to be screwed just like everybody else that had their monies cut from them and all the problems. They're not going to be immune from these problems. They're going to be right in the middle, and they're putting themselves on the wrong side of the fence. Now, hopefully some of them are waking up. We can only hope, right? Now, I want to go to one more clip here. This is Ron Paul. Now, he didn't get a lot of airplay when he had the debate the other day, but this is a clip of some of these highlights so you can see what was going on there.
Nuclear weapon in Iran? No, it isn't worthwhile. And the only way you would do that is you would have to go to the Congress. We as Commander-in-Chief aren't making the decision to go to war. You know, the old-fashioned way, the Constitution, you go to the Congress and find out if our national security is threatened. And I'm afraid what's going on right now is similar to the war propaganda that went on against Iraq. And, you know, They didn't have weapons of mass destruction, and it was orchestrated, and it was, to me, a tragedy of what's happened these last 10 years, the death and destruction, $4 trillion in debt. So no, it's not worthwhile going to war. If you do, you get a declaration of war, and you fight it, and you win it, and get it over with.
Thank you, Congressman. Stephen writes, I served on an aircraft carrier during the Vietnam War. I believe that torture is always wrong in all cases. What is your stance on torture?
Torture is illegal, and by our laws, it's illegal by international laws.
How do you define torture, sir?
Well, waterboarding is torture, and many other things. It's illegal under international law and under our law. It's also immoral, and it's also very impractical. There's no evidence that you really get reliable evidence. Why would you accept the position of torturing 100 people because you know one person might have information? And that's what you do when you accept the principle of torture. I think it's uncivilized and have no practical advantages, and it's really un-American to accept on principle that we will torture people that we capture.
And
Major, I have to weigh in on this. I have to say something.
Congressman Paul, covert operations in Syria, a green light for you?
I think it would be a mistake. I think the Syrians ought to deal with their country. I think
But what
we
about,
should have
what about the 3,500 dead?
Well, there's been a lot of people killed throughout the world in the last century. You know, the Soviets and the Chinese killed hundreds of millions, but we didn't feel compelled morally to try to stop it. No, it's a tragedy, and it would be nice if they would accept different views. But for us to get into covert operations, then you have troops involved.
Thank you,
and
Congressman.
it's very costly.
Thank you,
It's not
Congressman.
a good idea.
Within days of taking office, President Obama, by executive order, stopped the CIA from using classified enhanced interrogation techniques that are not waterboarding. There's a presumption that every person at Gitmo under the Obama administration should go into civilian court, not military commission. And the Obama administration recently said that any future captors in the war on terror would not go to Gitmo. Would you continue these policies? If you would change them, why?
This is a mess. It's a mess because we have a bad foreign policy. We're pretending we're at war. We haven't declared the war, but we're at war against a tactic, and therefore there's no limits to it. So we create these monstrosities, and we do things outside the law. We come up with assassinations, allowing the president to decide who's going to be assassinated. And lo and behold, 3 Americans now have been on the list. They've been assassinated, but they don't talk about the second one because the second one happened to be a 16-year-old son of a Lockheed. So what are we doing here to accept this idea that our president is in this lawlessness to pursue and that we someday will be subject to those same courts? So no, you don't. You want to live within the law and obey the law, because otherwise it's going to be very bad for all of us. And this whole idea that now we can be assassinated by somebody that we don't even like to run our medical care, and giving this power to the president to be the prosecutor, the executor, the judge, and the jury, we better look at that carefully before you automatically endorse something like that.
Congressman, thank you very much.
I voted for the authority to go after bin Laden. I was upset because it took 10 years because we were diverted from going after him and doing the job. But that's a lot different than assassinating American citizens. I mean, he wasn't a citizen. But I do want to remind you that over 300 individuals were tried in civilian courts here that were charged with terrorism here. Most of them are in jail, and I don't think we should give up so easily on our rule of law.
Congressman Paul, thank you very much.
Okay. So, you know, it's very important that we pay attention to these words, because as long as we have leaders that are out there in this country, in the United States of America, doing these kind of things, they make every one of you Americans look bad. Those of you who don't believe in war, as long as there's a warmonger president, other countries around the world are going to look at all Americans as warmongers, all Americans as bullies. I'm not a bully, I'm not a warmonger, and I know a lot of you aren't either. So we need to get those people out of office. And the way we do that is we have to stand up against them. See, the reason that all of these bad things go on in the world are because people are sitting back and not saying anything. Bad things happen when good people say and do nothing. It's time to stop saying and doing nothing. It's time to step up because we've allowed all of these things to happen. And the only way we're going to fix them is if we actually become brave enough and strong enough to stop them. We have to speak against the injustices. We have to stand up against all this corruption and the darkness. Now, what is going on in the world is really a tragedy. But what is going on in the world is more than meets the eye. There is a real battle of light and dark going on here. Good versus evil. Goes back as long as our stories talk about. As long as we know. And we are still, regardless of how far we've come along technologically over the course of these years, we're still dealing with the same problems. There's still people dealing with issues. And people are still willing to allow the darkness to be acceptable in their life. They're still willing to go out and accept lies. They're willing to go out and accept minor thievery and minor crimes and all the things that we accept. And by accepting those things and allowing those things in, they continue to live. Because pretty soon a little white lie becomes a little bigger. And we allow ourselves to accept the bigger lie. And we do these things as trade-offs for things like money and superficial things that don't really mean anything important. Well, now is the time for us to step up against the darkness. And fortunately, we have the cosmos working with us in this regard, because this is a time of a great galactic changes upon us. That's what all of these calendar systems, the Mayan calendars, have been about. The Aztec calendars, the timelines in the Great Pyramids, the Book of Revelation, all of the prophecies that are out there talk about these times of great change when we have an opportunity to overcome the darkness. Now, Atlantis, we know of that place. Many think it's just a legendary place that didn't exist. It existed. People don't remember it because they don't want to remember the fact that the darkness was not overcome there, that people didn't listen. It was too late. The opportunity is here and now, my friends, to change those ways of the past. Now, we have to do that by remembering. I spent the weekend, I went to this conference, and it was the Crystal Skull Conference, and it was in Los Angeles. And it was very interesting being there. And I got an opportunity to see many of these ancient crystal skulls, and they're pretty amazing. I mean, some of these are thousands and thousands of years old. And what they are they're like computers, basically, that store information of what has happened throughout history. And as I got to see and look at them and see the pictures and talk to the researchers and the guardians of them, it really was quite fascinating to understand how all of these things really were helping and working with humanity. You know, some people have the misperception that these crystal skulls, you're supposed to give your power over to them. That's not truth. You're not supposed to give your power up to anything. See, there's lots of tools out there that we can use in this world to help us. But regardless of the tools, the place where the darkness really resides, it's in the hearts. It's in the hearts of the people of this planet. So you got to cleanse your heart of that darkness. And by doing that, that is how you're going to be able to get through all of the problems. That is how you're going to be able to make the change. Because the tools that are out there amplify the problems that are going on. So if you've got goodness and you've got goodness being amplified, imagine what that's going to do for the world. But if the tools that are out there are only amplifying darkness, well, then that's going to be a big problem. So let's make sure that what we're doing out there is amplifying the goodness, because there's a lot of good in the world. I know there is, and you know there is. We've just allowed the ones with the dark negative voices to have a louder say in what's going on. Now, while I was there this weekend, I had an opportunity to witness an event which was the Mayan ceremony by the Mayan elders, the Mayan Itza Council. And they did a ceremony never before done in the United States, which was a ceremony to help alleviate this negative energy that's going on. And there was a pilgrimage that took place from the 27th of October all the way until the 11th of this month that went from New York to Los Angeles, and they carried with them 13 crystal skulls. And they went to different spots, and they energized these spots. And as they got back to Los Angeles, they did this ceremony, and it was really cool to see the Mayan Eats a Council up there, with their headdress and doing this sacred ceremony to transfer this energy so they could take it back to the Yucatan and help disperse this energy and transmute it into love and good energy. And afterwards, I had an opportunity to speak for a few moments with Hunbatz Men, who is the Mayan daykeeper. And I asked him if he could share a message about 2012 that I could share on the show with you, the viewers and listeners. So this is what Hunbatz said.
Okay, the message from the Council of the Mayas, which is the person we're here to give some rituals for all this meeting of crystal skulls. So the message is everybody in the new time need to be very happy because the cosmic information is coming for everybody. So in that way, more crystal skulls are going to appear, and the crystal skulls, they're coming and going to appear a lot because they're going to help humanity to better understand the cosmos.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
All right, so that's Hunbatz Men, and positive message indeed. So that brings us to the end of our show, and at the end of the show, as we do all the time, is a meditation, which we're going to do now. So as I set things up here, I'd like you to go ahead and...
Message from the Council of the Mayas, which is the person we're here.
And just relax. All right. I'd like you to imagine that you are inside the middle of the earth, and that the earth is your body, and your arms and your legs are sticking out, and your head is sticking out, and the earth is your body. And as you are feeling and sensing your body, I want you to sense the places where there are problems, where there is energy that needs to be cleansed. And go ahead and send light down to those energies, to those places. And what you'll find in the process is that the darkness that it needs to be cleansed isn't coming from the body of the planet. It is coming from the beings that are walking upon the planet, humankind. And as you remember, you realize that the earth has been through all sorts of changes, but the earth continues to exist. It continues to be here, and will continue to be here. It is humanity that is the question. And you realize that in order for humanity to survive, to evolve, we need to cleanse the darkness that allows all of the corruption to exist. And so as you're imagining this, see yourself now as a being walking upon the planet, walking along the path, and see all the other humans walking along the path. And let's just imagine sending light to each and every one out there, light and love. And as you do, see the darkness dissipate. And as the darkness dissipates from the humans walking upon the planet, notice the earth smiling, because the earth knows that as people are more spiritually aware, that they will treat the earth much respectful, much more peacefully. They will honor the gifts that the earth has to offer. And as you're walking along the path, let's imagine that all of our energy centers are activated. There are 7 energy centers down the middle of your body. These are called chakras. These chakras are related to the Book of Revelation and the 7 seals. So imagine opening these up one at a time, starting with the chakra at the bottom of your spine. The color there is red. All you have to do is just imagine the color red at the bottom of your spine, and imagine it drawing the energy from the earth. And then let that energy raise up from that chakra to the chakra above it, which is right around the belly button. And there, imagine the color orange. And this chakra is the chakra that deals with your emotional body. And then raise the energy up the middle of your spine, a little bit higher, just below the rib cage. And the chakra there deals with your intellectual body, and the color there is yellow. Just imagine the color yellow. And keep allowing that energy to rise up higher now to your heart chakra, right in the middle of your chest. And imagine the color green, right where your heart is, right in the middle. And then let that energy raise up higher from your heart chakra to your throat. This is your chakra that deals with your communication center. And imagine the color blue. And then raise the energy up higher to your third eye, which is just between your 2 eyebrows, above the bridge of your nose. And this is how you see through dimensions of space and time. It's called your third eye. And imagine the color violet, deep purple, violet. And then finally raise the energy up to the top of your head, to your crown chakra. And see this chakra as an indigo color as it goes from the purple into the white, and then continuing on upward as bright white light into the cosmos. And the light just goes on and on. And through this process you understand that you are energetically a being of the cosmos and of the earth. And as you honor the energies from above and from below, you find yourself much more in synchronicity with life, with nature. As the 7 seals within you open, you find yourself much more aware of the true path that we are all walking. And your eyes are open to the deceptions of the false paths that we are shown. So as you're walking along the path with all of your energy centers activated, let's just imagine sending out light and love from our heart chakra all around the world to each and every one on the planet. Our friends and our enemies, we must love everyone, for the enemies need that love even more. And just send it out, and let's just wish everybody a good thought for the day. Let's send clarity out there that we can go through, because we can fix the problems when we all work together in the spirit of love. And holding that thought in our mind, let's bring our energy and attention now back to the present moment. We'll do so on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. That's it, my friends. Open your eyes. It's the end of our prayer meditation. It's the end of our show for today. I thank you for being here. Always enjoy bringing you the latest news and information out there and sharing what we have to share. You go out there and have a great day. Be safe. Dirk and I will be back tomorrow with more news information. Talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.